Welcome to the Wargaming Garage and this boarding patrols mission for part 2 of the Uprising. So part 2 of the Uprising sees us underneath the outpost as the Ghosts of the Forge continue to try and cleanse the outpost from the Genestealer cult. So after the events of part 1, Lieutenat Dallor has continued to bury deep into the outpost and try and dig out what's left of the Genestealer cult there. Although this mission is separate and is independent, do go and watch part 1 to give it some context. So it's going to be based upon one of the Arcs of Omens missions, which is from the Lion book, which we'll take a look at shortly. But in the meantime, let's go and have a look at the armies. So here we have 500 points, or just below actually, of Astartes. It's led today by actually Dra'Ner, which is the other lieutenant in one of the companies for the Ghosts, alongside Dallor and Pretir, which is the Librarian. Dra'Ner has an enhancement which gives him from the Angron book, I think it is, which gives him +1 attacks and +1 strength, or a charge, something like that, when he goes into combat. Everyone else is pretty bog standard with their abilities off the data sheets, and they're going to be not leading, but they're going to be with 2 squads of assault intercessors and 1 squad of aggressors. So that's nice and simple and short because it's only 500 points, but that's the Ghost of the Forge. And for the Genestealer cult today, there is 500 points led by the Icon Ward, the Acolyte Icon Ward, with a squad of Acolyte hybrids, a squad of aberrants, and 2 squads of neophyte hybrids. Again, nice and simple. The enhancement for the Icon Ward today is the Shadow Stalker, so he's -1 to hit. So that is 500 points of Genestealer cult. So let's go on and have a look at the mission. So today's mission is Whispers in the Void. So with a slight twist, where these are supposed to be sort of manifestations from the warp, they're going to be manifestations of the pull of the Patriarch as we go through the outpost itself underneath. This is the map, the boarding actions. We've got a couple of objectives, so 1, 2, 3 going all the way through, then we've got 1 to either side. So with that, we'll go on to deployment. So after deployment, the Ghosts run the deployment roll-off, as they've deployed the assault intercessors with the lieutenant over this side, the aggressors with the Librarian here, and the squad of assault intercessors with the lieutenant there. They're opposite numbers. There's the neophyte hybrids, 1 squad's down here, the aberrants in the mid board, and then the acolyte hybrids and neophyte hybrids, again with the Icon Ward over this side towards the top end of the board. Again, just to be clear that the Librarian isn't leading the aggressors. You can't attach leaders to squads in boarding actions, but you can transfer their skills or their leader abilities to certain squads for a command point. So they've sort of become a little bit like auras in ninth, but they're more like, you know, you have to pay for them to actually be transferred. So yeah, a little bit different, but if you've not already played Boarding Actions, highly recommend giving it a go, because it is a lot of fun, quick to set up and quick to play, and very strategic. For reference, where you see the hazard stripes, that's where doors are, so it's easy to reference when you're watching and when you're on this top-down view, so they're easy to see. So with that, we'll do the roll-off to see who goes first. So the Genestealer cult dice and the ghost dice, let's see what's happening. And with that, it is the attackers, which they are the attackers, turn, it's the ghosts turn 1. So at the start of the round, the attacker has to roll a dice to see what manifestations there are under the outpost, and it's a 4. Okay, so all the lights flicker on, suddenly illuminating all the corridors and all the combatants. So until the end of the round, each summon model makes a ranged attack, add 1 to that attack's hit roll. Okay. So at the end of the movement phase, and pretty much end of the turn for the ghosts, the Assault Intercessors and the Lieutenant have both moved forward towards these hatchways, and they're going to open them at the end of their turn. The same for this squad of Assault Intercessors here. They've come around the corner and are operating that that hatchway. And the aggressors have moved forward, ready to sort of head towards the mid-board, looking to make a move towards this objective in the centre there and just try and hold that. But that is the end of turn 1 for the ghosts. So we'll open those hatchways and move on to Genestealer cult turn 1. So at the end of the Genestealer cult's movement phase, and again pretty much the turn 1s and 2s are normally quite quick in Boarding Actions if you've not played it. This squad are operating the hatchway to open that, ready for turn 2. The squad of aberrants just moved up. They're not doing anything apart from biding their time. This squad of neophytes are securing the site to make this objective sticky, and then the squad of acolytes advance round to get themselves within reach of this doorway, and then the Icon Ward followed them up. So some tentative steps within turn 1. So with that, we'll move on to the ghosts turn 2. So we rolled a 1 for the start of the battle round. And that translates to, at the end of each battle round, until the end of the battle round, at the end of each player's turn, that player scores 5 victory points for each alpha objective marker they control. So they're the ones that run through the centre. So at the end of the movement phase for the ghosts, this squad of Assault Intercessors advanced and managed to sort of get themselves spread between onto that alpha objective. The Lieutenant, he actually advanced as well, got onto that alpha objective. The Librarian moved forward and has opened the hatchway. The aggressors advanced to get line of sight on the aberrants because they've heard on the grapevine they need dealing with in a big way. This squad of Assault Intercessors have actually held and are doing the secure sight action so they can then freely move off of it. And then this Lieutenant's just brought himself around into some of the action. So shooting phase will only consist really of the aggressors. So their profile's changed a little bit in 10th. It is just D6 plus 1, as it's touted as Flamestorm Gauntlets. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but that's how I'm reading it at the moment. So it's 3d6 plus 1 on each one. So that is 7, 9, 13 flamer hits. So that is strength 4 versus toughness 6, so 5 to wound, but it is twin linked. Okay, and here's the reroll. So that's 7, 5 up saves, so there's no AP. Okay, and then 4 up, feel no pain. Okay, so we kill one and bring one down to 1 wound. But they are dangerous. So with that, we'll go on to Genestealer Cult's turn 2 after the ghosts have secured a further 10 victory points, taking them up to 15. What can the Genestealer Cults do in their turn 2? So at the end of the Genestealer Cult's movement phase, we brought the Aberrants round. They've been operating the hatchway and they've opened it. This site is secure, and then they've opened this hatchway, or the neophyte hybrids have opened this hatchway to take a line of sight on the aggressors. The Aberrants, angered by losing one of their members, they've decided to must deal with this aggressor squad. Whoever the victor is of that could sway the battle either way. And then this squad of neophytes came through the hatchway to take line of sight on that lieutenant and see what they can do to try and secure that objective back. So that's the movement phase done. We'll go on to some shooting phases. So we fired this squad of neophytes off camera. There's only a couple could see and nothing doing into the aggressors. So down here, we're going to have to do this first rank of 4 here into the lieutenant. And 1 hit. Now, it does wound. He takes a wound. Okay. So then the heavy mining laser will reach out and try and strike the lieutenant. It doesn't. I'm going to use a CP. And it still doesn't. Okay. And that is pretty much the shooting phase done for Genestealer Cults. So we're going to move on to the charge phase. So the Aberrants will go into the aggressors and then just make it in on a 3. And then the neophytes are going to charge the lieutenant, because what we're hoping is we can obsec him off the objective and get that objective back for some points at the end of the turn. And with a 6, I'll measure it, but that should be just in. We're going to start with the Aberrants. We know we run the risk of being interrupted by the lieutenant, but that's the risk we're going to take. So we've got everything here. The gold dice are the standard, and then the purple ones are the sergeant equivalent, if you like, the hypermorph. Okay, so hitting on 3s. Wounding on 4s or 3s for the hypermorph. Okay. So we've got 5 wounds at no AP, doing 2 damage each. And so that's 2 wounds on 1. And then 1 wound at -2, which is saves. Okay. So we are going to spend all of our CP for the ghosts to interrupt, and then to spend a CP on Strength of the Emperor, so we add 1 to the strength characteristic of the lieutenant. So now it's hitting on 2s and wounding on 2s. So for the enhancement, he gets an extra attack, so he gets 6 attacks hitting on 2s, and all bar 1. Okay, so now essentially killing on 2s. So that is 4 dead from the neophyte hybrid squad. So the fight back starts with the neophyte hybrids, so they get 6 attacks hitting on 4s. Wounding on 5, strength 3, toughness 4. So 2 wounds come through. And the Lieutenant takes another wound. But more importantly, on this objective, with an OC of 2, they have taken the objective away from the ghosts. So they will get 5 points in addition at the end of their turn. So with that, we'll move on to the aggressors fighting back in the mid-board against the aberrants. So they get 3 attacks each, hitting on 3s. Strength 8 versus toughness 6, so 3s to wound. So aberrants only have a 5-up save. It's -2, so there's no actual save. They go straight through on the aberrants. So that would be 10 wounds going through. So that's 10 feel no pains. So 2 damage at a time. So we'll do the first one on the one that's got 1 wound left, and he is very dead. And the second one, so he's got 2 wounds left. He's got 1 wound left. He's dead. And the last set goes through, and it takes 1 wound off of the third one. So there's 2 left, 1 with 2 wounds. So at the end of the Genestealer cult turn, they have picked up 5 more points for taking the Lieutenant off that objective. So it's 15 points to 10 in the Ghost's favour. So what will the Ghosts now do as we go into Ghost's turn 3? So at the start of battle round 3, we'll just roll a dice for the manifestations coming through this outpost. We get a 6. I don't know if that's going to be good or not. Okay, so it just means that players can re-roll their charges made for their units without the thing of costing them CP. So after picking up 10 more points in the primary, the Ghosts have moved forward. The Lieutenant has stayed in combat, and this squad of assault intercessors has come round after the Librarian came through and basically shouted at them to go and assist the Lieutenant, as you can hear things through the Vox. This squad of assault intercessors came up and opened this hatchway. Now it's going to be interesting because it does actually open onto each other, but the rules state that once it's open, the hatchway kind of doesn't exist for any intents and purposes for the game. So I think this guy will be able to actually take a pot shot through into the acolytes, which is what he's going to do, and misses. So that probably works itself out. And so with that, we'll move on to see who else can actually make some shots. With the aggressors tied up in combat, we may be actually going straight through into fight phases and charge phases. So let's see, have a quick look, and I'll come back. So in addition to this first guy here going towards the acolytes, this second guy here and the sergeant are going to go into the neophyte squad. So we'll start with the bolter, which hits and wounds, and doesn't save. There's a 5-up save, so nothing doing there. And then the plasma pistol misses. Okay, so we remove one of the acolytes from this squad, and with that we'll go on to the charge phase. So we're going to charge the Lieutenant into the aberrants, which I'll check. And then we're going to put the assault intercessors into the acolyte hybrids. And on the 6, yeah, they get in. So for the purposes of this, because of the hatchways being how they are on this map, I've closed this one even though it is actually open, and then this one has been opened. And it's just these first 2 that can fight against these first 2 here because of engagement range, etc., etc., and fighting through models. And the Lieutenant did just takes him into engagement range as well with his 4-inch charge. So we'll start with the assault intercessors into the acolytes. So the intercessors get 4 attacks each, hitting on 3s. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4, wounding on 4s. The Acolytes have a 5-up save, it's -1, so 6s to keep 2 of them alive. No, both die. Then the Lieutenant into the Aberrant, hitting on 2s. Strength 4 versus Toughness 6, so 5s to wound. No wounds, unsurprisingly. So now we look at which units need to fight back first for the defending units, and I think we're going to start over here with this squad of neophytes, because if I can, when that Lieutenant swings his sword again, I'm likely to lose a few more, which will then affect the OC of that objective. So we're going to fight there first. So 6 attacks, hitting on 4s. Wounding on 5s. Just one more wound comes through. And he's fine. Okay, so now the aggressors will fight back into the Aberrants. And they get 3 attacks each, and they hit on 3s. They wound on 3s. And again, there's no save, it's -2, 2 damage. So 4 to go through. Okay, kills that one. Puts 1 wound left on the last one remaining and kills him. Okay, we're going to spend 2 CP on Vicious to the end, which basically means it's a fight on death. So that's what we're going to do. And everything's going to go into the aggressors because we want to try and nullify that threat for the benefit of the rest of the Genestealer cult. So here we go, hitting on 3s. The purple dice again are the hypermorph. Now, I'm going to spend a CP to reroll one of those. No. So 2 wounds at no AP, and it kills one of the aggressors, and then 1 wound at -2, and kills another aggressor, leaves 1 aggressor standing. Okay, they do have the cult ambush keyword, so it is battle round 3, so there's no real pluses to this roll. So let's see if we can get those Aberrants to come back. I really hope they do. And they do. And so Lieutenant Dra'Ner raises his power sword, strikes towards the cult that are in front of him, and he hits all the times. Strength 5, toughness 3, so 3s to wound. I'm not spending the CP this time, and that is 4 more killed. It still leaves the objective in the hands of the Genestealer cult. So the Acolyte hybrids strike back towards the Assault Intercessors. There's 2 of them that can fight. So there's hitting on 3s. All but 1. It's a shame those 6s, that 6 doesn't do anything, but there we go. Strength 4, toughness 4, so 4s to wound. That is 5 wounds at -1. So 4 to stave. Wow. Okay. And the Astartes armor holds firm. 1 takes a wound. So at the end of the Ghost turn 3, we've managed to clear some of the mid board at some expense, but we've tied up the acolytes, preventing them from moving on to this alpha objective, and we've looked to secure one in the corridor, but we still don't hold this objective in the bottom corner here. So with it being 25 points to the Genestealers 10, the Genestealers will pick up 10 points as they go into their turn 3, one for this one here, one for the sticky objective here. So with only 5 points being in it, what can the Genestealer cult do in their turn 3? So at the end of the turn, at the end of the movement phase for the Genestealer cult, the acolytes have remained in combat, but the Icon Ward, we spent a CP to transfer the Fire Feel No Pain ability to these, and then he moved off and operated the hatchway to open that. The squad of neophytes came through, looking to take aim on the Lieutenant and maybe get lucky and try and get rid of that last aggressor. This squad down here, brave souls that they are, stayed in combat with the Lieutenant. So with that, we'll move on to the shooting phase. The two acolytes that are in combat here have got pistols, so they're going to fire those into combat. And both miss, which is out. Okay. So this squad is splitting fire. They're going to put the seismic cannon into... so everything from here is going to go into the Lieutenant, barring the mining laser, which is going to go into the aggressor. So the seismic cannon with slightly different strength. So I've hits differently, so I've done that with the different dice. So here we go, 4s and 5s. So 5s and 3s. Okay, so the first one comes through with no AP. Hitting is fine. The second one comes through and the seismic cannon is -1, so it's 4s. And he's not fine, so that's D3 wounds. For 2, leaving 2 left on the Lieutenant. The mining laser then comes in to the aggressor. And hits, and hits. Strength 12, so it's 2s to wound. And it definitely wounds. It is -3. There's no cover, he's right in front of him. And he definitely does not survive that. So it is D6 +1. So a 2 up, and that aggressor is gone. It's just enough, but that kills that last remaining aggressor. With that, the shooting phase is done, so there's only one thing to do, which is charge the neophytes into the Lieutenant and see if we can tear him down. On 8, they're definitely in. There's 9 attacks come raining in from the Genestealer cult neophyte hybrids. They hit on 4s. Oh dear. They wound on 5s. Ooh, it's all they need. It is all they need. So 2 3-up saves to keep Dallor alive. It takes 1 more wound. Further down the corridor, the assault intercessors strike out again at the acolyte hybrids. With razor sharp accuracy. They only wound twice. 6 is required to keep them alive, and that's 2 more acolytes fall. And so the 2 that are left in combat with the Lieutenant, 1 hits, and it wounds. But the Lieutenant stands firm. Lieutenant Dallor, enraged by the charge of the neophytes, screams his defiance at them and strikes out and wounds 3 of them with 3 5-up saves and takes down 3 right there and then in the central avenue of this outpost. And then Dra'Ner raises his sword. Oh, misses. I'll CP reroll that, and still misses, leaving one neophyte standing. And at the end of the Genestealer cult, turn 3, they still hold this objective. They're still OC2 versus OC1. The Acolyte decided against his better judgment to pile in, but the Icon Warders decided to make moves towards this other Alpha objective, but the Lieutenant is tied up in combat in the centre there. Their next turn, fingers crossed, the Aberrants will be back. As we go on to Ghost of the Forge, turn 4. At the start of battle round 4, what is the manifestations this time? Back to a 1. Could be significant because at the end of the battle round, until in the battle round, at the end of each player's turn, that player scores 5 victory points for each Alpha objective marker they control. And again, we've got one in the centre, running down the central spine, one here, one with the Librarian, and one at the far end there. So let's move on to Ghosts, turn 4. So after the Ghosts movement phase, the Librarian stayed where he was. Dra'Ner fell back out of combat, but Dallor stayed in combat. But Dra'Ner was shouting through the Vox, secure the Alphas, and the Assault Ancestor Squad had to advance, believe it or not, just to get to, they were just outside of an inch, so in boarding actions it's an inch that you have to be inside to hold the objective, and so they had to advance. So they now hold that end of the turn. They'll be doing nothing else really. So this squad of Intercessors also then came round to take a shot at the last remaining neophyte. That being said, let's go straight on to the shooting phase, and 5 bolters into that last remaining neophyte. So 4 hits, 3 to wound, it's 2 wounds, 2 5-up saves, and he pops. So as that's the whole squad, let's see if that neophyte squad actually returns. Again, let's hope they do. No, they don't. Never mind. Meanwhile, at the end of the Ghost movement phase, the squad of Aberrants returned from the shadows. And so after that, the only thing to go on to really will be ongoing combat, because there's now nothing left down here. The Ghosts have secured that Alpha objective. They've secured this Alpha objective. So that's just back onto this ongoing combat. So it's the defenders will be fighting first. I'll gather some dice together and let's see if we can tear down this lieutenant. So 6 attacks, hitting on 4s. Okay, I think they're quite cross. Here's the kicker though, they're wounding on 5s. It's 2 wounds. Okay, that's all it takes. That's 2 3-up saves. And he's fine. So now he strikes back and hits on 2s. Misses twice, his arm must be getting tired. 3 wounds, 3 5-up saves. And he kills 3 more on his own. So at the end of the Ghost's turn, they'll pick up 15 more points for holding that Alpha, and that Alpha. So that's taken the Ghost to 40 points to 20 to the Genestealer cults. But the Genestealer cults will pick up just 5 points on the primary this turn. So let's see what they can do to try and even it out at the end of turn 4. So we're going to Genestealer cults turn 4. So at the end of the Genestealer cults movement phase, the aberrants came around the corner to try and get a line on the assault intercessors and attempt to take that objective back. The icon ward stayed where he was, looking to make a charge, if you like, through the door hatchway, and then the last remaining acolyte hybrid came through, and again looking to make a charge and deal some damage with his close combat weapon. The neophyte stayed in combat, and that is it. Down this end of the battle grid, the outpost underneath is looking secure for the ghosts, so they'll start to double down on here, secure the site, and then start to move onwards from there. So we'll go on, there's not really a shooting phase, so we're straight into the charge phase. Until I light, the icon ward does have a pistol, so we'll see if we can pop that one on 1 wound. So it hits on a 3. So hits, wounds on a 5, doesn't wound. Okay. No, it's not worth the CP. Okay, so with that we'll go on to the charges, and we'll charge this acolyte in on a double, definitely in. The icon ward is definitely in. Okay, so now there's a longer charge from the aberrants through to the assault intercessors. Let's see what we can get. Oh, a 9. That is just enough for them to get in. So we will start, we went backwards and forwards about who to start with, but we will start with the aberrants. It makes sense. So again, in amongst here are the hypermorphs weapons as well, but everything hits on a 3. Okay, so we're only on 2s and 3s. Okay, so we'll do the 2 at minus 2. Okay, so that kills the one that's on 1 wound. Then we've got 8 with no AP, but each one failed kills an intercessor. Okay, and we lose 2 more. So the acolyte hybrid raises his heavy mining tool and hits on 3s. Hits both times. Strength 10 versus toughness 4, so 2s to wound. Wounds twice. It's -2, 3 damage each. And kills the last remaining 2 intercessors. Excellent work. So now the lieutenant again raises his combat knife. And again his arm's getting tired. Will he have just enough? It's 3s to wound. He wounds all 3 times, and that is 3 5-up saves to keep those 3 acolytes there. And only 1 falls. Okay. And so the 2 acolytes strike back. 1 hits. Doesn't wound. And that will mark the end. Genestealer cult turn 4. They have secured an alpha objective marker back, so that gets them up to 30 points, but it is, as we go into turn 5, and the ghost will pick up a further 15 points on the primary. There's a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do. So let's see what happens as we go into the Ghosts of the Forge turn 5. So as we start battle round 5, let's see what the last manifestation is within the outpost. It's a 4. So again, the lights flicker, there's bright illumination everywhere, and each time a model makes a ranged attack, add 1 to that attack's hit roll. So at the end of the ghost movement phase, in actual fact the end of the ghost's turn, down to where squads have lent them of focused their efforts, the lieutenants left in combat will resolve that shortly. This Librarian has begun securing the site, trying to combat the Patriarch's resonance throughout this outpost. And then down here, Lieutenant Dra'Ner and his squad of assault intercessors have also begun securing the second of the alpha objectives. So they're starting to try and clean house. But in the centre of the battle grid, Dallor is still locked in combat with two unfortunate Genestealer cult neophyte hybrids. So let's resolve that combat now. So defenders fight first, so the two Genestealer cult neophytes strike. And one hits. 5's to wound. We'll spend a CP, why not? This doesn't wound. Okay. So now, can he clear himself of combat? He hits 3 times. He wounds twice, 1 for each, so 2 5-up saves needed. He still has 1 remaining, which in a way it doesn't do the Genestealer cult any favours. It would be better to kill them, because then there's a chance they may come back for their turn 5. But as it stands, this ongoing combat, he's really badly wounded. He's got 1 wound left, he's hanging on. But the Genestealer cult are also doing the same. That one brave guy with the mining laser, can he bring him down? So at the end of the Genestealer's command phase, Genestealer cult's command phase, they pick up 10 points on the primary, 1 for that one and 1 for this one, taking them 40 points to 55. And that there's nothing that the Genestealer cults can do. They are isolated at this end, holding this alpha objective, and there's not enough or anything come back enough to actually try and pick up with one of these other objectives to see if they can swing the battle in their favour. Felt throughout the entire compound, the Patriarch uses the powers of the hive mind to seek out and call back the force of the Genestealer cult. And so, frustratingly for the Ghosts of the Forge, the Genestealer cult once again melt away into the shadows. And beings that were once there have disappeared in the blink of an eye. Frustratingly for the Ghosts, as they continue to try and clear through this outpost and secure it and rid the planet of the infestation. And at the other end of the outpost, the aberrants, the Icon Ward, and the last remaining acolyte disappear as well, taking whatever it was they found and kept secure here with them. And as the call goes out over the box, the remaining forces of the Ghosts rendezvous back in the central avenue of the outpost, what is now an outpost that is most definitely empty, and whatever was here before has now vanished. So, as we move on to part 3 of the Uprising, thank you very much for watching. That was it was a victory for the Ghosts, but a bit of a hollow victory all told in the end, as once again the Genestealer cult meld away into the shadows, leaving the Ghosts frustrated as they try and clear this planet of the infestation. So what will happen, and will we finally see the Patriarch behind the scenes and everything else that's been manipulated on this planet as we go into the Uprising part 3? So see you again soon. Hope you enjoyed it, and take care.